Hello everyone, here again with another Arcane Mage guide, and I just want to cover a couple of tips and tricks for high corruption with Arcane Mage. Fortunately, unlike the other two specs, Arcane really suffers from not being able to stand still and cast, so we have to use all the tools available to us to maintain a singular position wherever possible. As you get up beyond 80 corruption, the circle size for the Eye of Corruption is going to grow too large for you to get out of it in a single blink, and the damage amp is pretty high. After 80 corruption, you want to really start to avoid cascading disaster because of the healing reduction that and the damage taken that we're going to receive. So if you're going to run high corruption, again, past 80, upwards around 85, the circle that we create, I'm going to hopefully get one here for us, just as we talk, is going to be too large for you to blink out of. So you need to think about maybe taking one step in a particular direction within the encounter and then blinking, like a little stutter step like that. Sometimes it's worth it though. If you can manage for Arcane to time your movement, especially with blink and back with the displacement, and you know which direction you're going to go, the payoffs are sometimes worth it. But I just would like to encourage those, once we get a thing here I'll show you, who want to play Arcane, that really you can do very well. You just have to manage your movement and be very selective and very aware and determine ahead of time where you're going. You can't really afford to dance around. You can see right in the middle, one blink doesn't get me out, so I'm still stuck on the edge getting hit by this eye. So you would need to have moved maybe 2 or 3 steps to the left or 2 or 3 steps to the right, and that's sitting at about 87 total corruption. Yeah, so tips for that is when you're in a raid encounter or when you're in a Mythic Plus, you need to be thinking about your sight lines. Here again, there's a circle. I get just barely to the edge. Sometimes the circle doesn't spawn exactly on you. So it's pretty close. So around 85 total corruption is probably in range everywhere, but 80 to 85 is the number you want to be aware of. So when you're planning your Mythic Plus, when you're planning your encounters in Ny'alotha, just be aware of what direction you want to be going should the corruption eye proc. It's by far the most deadly thing for Arcane Mages because the damage that you take will give you a debuff. It can spawn the Grand Illusion that'll come after you, and you can get hit by Grasping Tendrils, which will, at this amount of corruption, almost entirely root you. That's why I suggest moving first to see if you have Grasping Tendrils. And the second reason for that is if you move first when you blink and get outside of the circle, the 8-second window of time that corruption runs for is still within the displacement time. So there's a 10-second window when you can displace as an Arcane Mage and go back to your spot, and the eye lasts for about 8 seconds. So take your step first, that way you have just a little bit more buffer time, and then you can just stutter step and go back to your spot. So you're out of the circle, 10 seconds later you're still DPSing, and then you're back into the circle or back into the spot that you need to be. So here we go in the middle again, just doesn't quite get it. If you're really in trouble, of course, you can make use of Ice Block. You can make use of Mass Invisibility. Mass Invisibility is going to give us damage reduction, about 60% damage reduction while it's running, and for about 3 seconds afterwards. So you can see it's still running even though we've come out of invisibility. That's a useful way to mitigate some of the damage coming out of corruption. But again, Arcane gets punished a lot heavier than Fire or Frost in this regard, so just be aware. Once you hit that 80 threshold and go past it, your blinks are going to be putting you right on the edge of that circle. If you can manage to get out of the circle in one blink, you can still maintain high DPS by continuing to cast your Arcane Blast. Okay guys, thanks and we'll see you next time.